And so our last class that we're going to talk about are the Cubozoa, the box jellies. So they're very similar in morphology to the true jellies, to the Scyphozoa, but they are not true jellies, all right? And one of the best defining features is that instead of having a bell that is curved, their bell is cubed shape. So they actually have essentially corners to them. Thus they name box jellies. Another good feature of these, or good defining features that separates them from the Scyphozoa, is that they have relatively few tentacles. For example, this species has one tentacle at each corner, so it only has 4. This one's tentacles subdivide and make a few more, but they're grouped together in each corner and not all over the rim of the bell. So the tentacles aren't just found on the rim of the bell at the corners. They're found on a structure called the pedalium. And here's an example. Here's a pedalium. It's just like a pedestal, essentially, that sticks out from the jelly, the box jelly, and then on that is where you'll actually find the tentacle. So these are found in tropical marine waters. I don't think there's any freshwater species of this. Relatively, though, they are actually pretty good swimmers, and it has to do with their shape. This is slightly more torpedo-shaped than a true jelly, which allows them to actually swim pretty well against some currents. So they're still planktonic, but they are actually relatively good swimmers. They have the Raphaelium, which is the eye. It's extremely defined in this species. You can see it here at the top of the pedalium, and in this species you can see it very clearly. This looks like a little bit deeper water species, right? Essentially, these are eyes. Scientists have been looking at how well their eyes work for a while, and we actually think that they can detect basic shapes with these eyes, which is interesting because they don't have a brain. So all of that information is contained in just this one little region. And this allows them to do a couple different things. Yes, they can tell light from dark, they can tell up from down, but they can also determine if something is predator or prey. And one thing about the box jellies is they're often found swimming in swarms. They stick with each other, and scientists think this is to intimidate predators because there are things that will eat them. And if they're large, if they appear large or in a dense collective, then they're more intimidating to their predators. And that's actually, that's actually pretty cool that they can do that, or that some species do that. This is definitely not a species or a type of a class of the Cnidarians that you ever want to mess with. Most people have heard of sea wasp or even the irukandji jellyfish. The venom that's found in these species are some of the most deadly toxins that we know of on the planet. And it can attack your heart, it can attack your nervous system, and it can do major irreversible damage to these, including your skin. So this is not something you want to mess with. In Australia, they have a great tourism season. Lots of people from the northern hemisphere go to Australia during the winter time because their winter is our summer because they're on the southern hemisphere. And they'll go, kind of like snowbirding. They just go away where it's warmer, and they want to go swimming, and that's wonderful. But they got to look at the signs that are posted out on those Australian and New Zealand beaches, because they, we have warnings for different things in the water. They have warnings specifically for jellyfish, because you can dive into the water and never come back up, because you dive in, you hit a jellyfish, instantly that extremely devastating neurotoxin hits your system and you never resurface. So that can be pretty bad. Now, in your notes, the sea wasp and the irukandji jellyfish have links to them. Please go through and look at these and read these. I know in the sea wasp, one of the things I focus on, and this is a scientific journal, it goes through at one point and talks about the symptoms of the sting. Read those, because it is a nightmare, all the different symptoms that this sting causes. And the same thing with the irukandji jellyfish, but the irukandji jellyfish actually has a story that goes with it of how it was discovered. You need to read that because the dude that discovered this was crazy. So definitely go see what the ear-conch jellyfish is and how it was discovered. It's good stuff. Definitely go through and read that. Then this is actually a small article, so definitely go through and read that. So here's another good example of a box jelly. Here you can see the Pedaliums, and you get the tentacles going off. At the top of that, you got the Pedaliums. You can see those. And again, somewhere up in there is the mouth. Yeah. So I won't leave you with this. So here is some images of some people that have gotten stung by jellyfish. Notice the scarring where the nematocysts have fired their where the tentacles touched them, the mass is triggered and fired their the venom into the skin. This is causing acute inflammation, severe inflammation of the epidermis of the victim. This does not go away. You can see later on, here's an example of the scar tissue that forms. This is a permanent deformation if either one of these two people actually survive. So one of my students pointed out to me that I was asked, are these people still alive? Because I mentioned before that the neurotoxins can be deadly. And to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, it kind of looks like alive because I don't see really any discoloration. I mean, in this one you've got swelling and it's still red. And this one looks like an older room and scar tissue, but the guy definitely doesn't look like he's, a guy or female, doesn't look like they're dead. But one of my students pointed out, this dude has a thumb tag, which they thought would mean, hey, it's like a toe tag, but it's on your thumb. And I pointed out, well, mostly if this guy got stung, he was probably at the beach. When he probably got rushed in, he didn't have his information on him because, you don't take your wallet when you get in the water. And so they may have just put this tag on him with the information number so that way you just keep up with the patient. But as far as I know, both these are live, but that's not always the case. There are all too many stories and reports of people who did not survive their first and only encounter with some types of cnidarians. So just keep that in mind, that they are a beautiful, wonderfully diverse, and ecologically important phyla for us and for our planet. But give it a little respect, understand them, learn about them, and get along with them.